Well, hey, how you doing? This is Dr. Rhonda, and I'm so glad you're here. And I want to talk to the high achieving women. Imagine a high powered executive woman sitting at her desk, surrounded by achievement, awards, degrees, a full calendar, yet her eyes are tired and her spirit is restless. She doesn't need another project. She is exhausted. She needs clarity. She needs one quiet afternoon where she can finally stop to breathe and whisper to God, "What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?" That question marks the beginning of a beautiful unraveling, not of her life, but of everything that never really fit. You know, the thing about questions is that asking them and getting the answers to them brings so much clarity. And today is day one of a 5-day teaching that I'm doing on 5 leadership lessons from 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 2. And we're going to talk about clarity being the catalyst today. In 2 Kings chapter 4, we find a widow woman who was the widow of a prophet and her 2 sons. And she was in debt, and the debtors were coming to put her sons in prison because she didn't have the money to pay. And so she sent word to Elisha for help. Like many people do today. When you need help, you go to the church, and the church will help you. Hopefully, they have it to help. And Elisha did something that most churches probably would not do today. He asked her a question. In 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 2, it says, "And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee?" In other words, what do you want? This is so powerful to me because I remember watching a TV series several years ago, and in every single episode, the main character would ask whoever she was working with for that episode, "What do you want?" And the first time she would ask the question, she would always get some fluff, cutesy answer that, was not the real point, but they said what they thought she wanted to hear. And she would keep asking, "What do you want?" Then the answer would go a little bit deeper. And it got to the point where she was literally screaming in their faces, "What do you want?" And in exasperation, the truth would come out. And what they wanted, that final answer, was so different than what they initially answered. But it was the heart of the matter. So asking the right questions does something for us. It helps us to not only give an answer, but it helps us to think critically about what is it that we really want? What is in our heart? What is the desire of our heart? What is it that we want the Lord to do for us? In the New Testament, Jesus would come across people who were sick, legitimately sick, blind, lame, and they had a visible disability. You didn't have to be a prophet to figure out what was wrong with them. They couldn't walk, they were deaf, they had leprosy, they were blind, so many things. And do you not know Jesus, the Almighty God, would ask them, "What would you have me to do for you?" And to me, that always seemed like, I hate to say it this way, but a dumb question. Yeah, like, why would you ask that question? They have this disability, this problem, and that problem. Yet Jesus, in his wisdom, asked them the question. And I believe that reason is in the asking, they had to identify their need. It wasn't a point of embarrassment or shame. That wasn't the idea at all. The point was, you have to identify, be very clear on what it is that you want, what it is that you want God to do for you. So asking the right questions is the catalyst. It's the starting point. It is the launch pad for getting clarity. Like in my opening analogy about the executive woman who cried out to God in her frustration, "What do you want me to do?" She was at that point where she had to admit nothing is working. It should not be this hard. Why is life so challenging? And when she was ready to admit what it is that she wanted and what wasn't working that needed to go, then the clarity became clear. For example, in the New Testament, blind Bartimaeus, his response to the question that Jesus asked about what do you want, he said that I might receive my sight. Well, prior to that question, the Bible makes a point of mentioning that when Jesus called him, he threw off his coat or his jacket, so to speak. He threw it down. He was willing to let that go because he wanted something better. Oh, I can get another coat if I can just see where to go. Having sight is everything. Having that clarity is everything. Great leadership does not start with strategy. That's not the starting point. It starts with asking better questions. You know, as a school administrator, we had to work on our comprehensive needs assessment for our campus every year. And you would think it would be easy because we could use the data to clearly articulate where the needs were. But no, it was not that simple. We had to identify the root causes. Why is this a problem? And to do that CNA took hours and days because we would gather as a team to discuss what the root problem was and getting all the way down to the root. We kept asking each other questions. Well, when you're in leadership, you have to keep asking those questions until clarity comes, where there's no more question to ask. Elisha didn't assume her need. He did not automatically say, "Oh, you need some money, let me bless you," without her telling him. He could have, he was a prophet of God, but that's not how the conversation started. It started with him asking the question, "What do you need me to do?" He was seeking clarity first. The right question can unlock the right breakthrough for you. You've got to ask questions. I never understood this statement in my younger years as an adult because I was always inquisitive and always asking questions. And I frequently heard people talk about me or to me directly, and they always seemed to judge my qualifications and abilities based on the questions that I asked. And I kept thinking, you would have thought that they would have based their judgment of me on my answers. It was on my questions. Because this is what questions do for you when you ask them. It shows that you have given in-depth thought to the matter. It shows critical thinking. It shows that you are thinking deeply about a concept and you're getting to the root of the matter. And so, like I said, the right question can unlock the right breakthrough for you. So then the question then becomes, will I continue leading from assumption or will I shift into spirit-led clarity? As a leader, it's so important that we understand the power of asking questions. The Bible talks about inquiring in his temple. That's asking questions. When Mary and Joseph found Jesus in the temple after 3 days of him being lost, they found him asking questions in the temple of the rabbis and the elders. And he was given some answers too, but he was also asking. So it's time, lady leader, to start asking some questions. And we typically ask questions of people that we believe have the right answers. But can I take that a step further? It's time to start asking the right questions of the one who has all the answers. And it's not you. It's not me. It's God. What does he want you to do in this season of your life? What direction does he want you to take? Exactly how many steps are there on the corporate ladder? When is enough enough? How do you know when you've reached the top? How do you know when it's time to pivot? What are you supposed to do now? You see how those streams of questions can go? It's so important that you understand that clarity is the catalyst, not strategy, clarity. If you have clarity, strategy will come. So imagine the joy of waking up and knowing exactly where you're headed, why it matters, and how to get there. No more overthinking, no more second guessing. It's because you've asked God the right questions. Ah, that's so important. You know, David said, "What shall I render unto the Lord for all of his benefits towards me?" He asked a question. He wanted to know, what can I give you, God, because you've been so good to me? And the answer came back, the very next verse, I will take the cup of salvation. And so we've got to make sure that we're asking God the right questions. It's time, because many of us are at the stage of our life where we need to make sure our legacies are in place, that we have built the legacy that God would have us build that will outlive us, that we have prepared for our children and our children's children. I'm not trying to preach gloom and doom. I'm preaching reality. And it's time. God wants us operating as leaders from a place of peace, a place of purpose, and a place of clarity. And it starts with the questions that you need to ask. And so I just wanted to share this. This is just day one of our 5-day lesson on 5 leadership lessons from 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 2. So I want you to think about this. What is the question that you are afraid to ask God about your next season? Who? What is the question? You know what it is. You already know what it is. As you're watching this video and hearing my voice, you already know. What is the question that you are afraid to ask God about your next season? Why are you afraid to ask that question? I can tell you from experience, you're probably afraid because you know the answer will require significant changes in your life, significant pivots. Life as you know it will be different. I'm not saying worse, but things are going to change if you ask that question. Because asking the question implies that you want an answer. If you didn't want to know, you would not ask. So, what is the question that you are afraid to ask God about your next season? Will it require you to relocate physically? Will it require you to get a whole new circle of friends? Or will it require you to change careers? Will it require you to give something of yourself that you never thought you would give? Will it require a sacrifice more than you ever thought you'd pay? What is that one question that you have been afraid to ask God about in this next season? If you're bold enough, if you want to, drop the answer in the comments below this video. I'd love to talk to you, or send me a private message or DM. I'd love to just share with you, because I know that if you're ever going to get the clarity about the next season, you're going to have to ask the right questions, because we've gotten so comfortable in the season that we're in, to the point where we don't even realize it's not working anymore. It's not fulfilling anymore. You know, when I was an assistant principal for 6 years, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. I probably stopped learning my job after year 2. And you're probably thinking, really? Here's why I say that. Because by the end of year 2, I realized that the job was very predictable. Stressful, yes, lots happening, but I could tell you in August what I'd be doing in January every year. I could tell you how the year was going to go as far as what was required of me, where I needed to be, so many different things. It was very predictable. And so that really crushed the amount of learning that I experienced, because I wasn't learning anymore. It was time to go. I realized that I stayed too long in that position. And thank God I didn't miss my moment, but I missed some moments along the way, because I wanted to stay in what was familiar. I figured familiar meant safe. But familiar can be so uncomfortable. It can be so unfulfilling. And God is saying, ask the question. Interestingly enough, he said, ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and the door shall be open unto you. For everyone that asks receives, and to him that knocks, the door shall be opened. Yeah. And to everyone who seeks, they shall find. So God is saying, ask. He even said, you have not because you ask not. And when you ask, sometimes you ask what the Bible calls amiss. It doesn't align with God's purpose. But if you ever get into alignment with God's will for your life and start asking him the right questions, you think you're a dynamic leader now. Oh my goodness, baby girl, you're about to step into your next level, where eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man, the things that God has prepared for those who love him. You want clarity? You want to know that you know that you know that you know that you know what your next season is? Start asking God the right questions, because I promise you, he's got answers. He's just been waiting for you to ask the right questions so that you can get the clarity that you need and be what he wants you to be and do what he wants you to do. So this was just day 1. I am super excited. Make sure you come back tomorrow for the second lesson on leadership from 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 2. See, I just don't get on here to be talking. I am an executive leadership coach who combines faith with leadership. I love working with believers, because everyone wants to be authentic and thinks that we need to be our authentic selves. Well, here I am, and I can help you. I empower C-suite women to find balance between their marriages, their careers, and their callings without burnout. And if any of this resonated with you today, I encourage you to click on the link in the comments below this video to download the free program overview for my program called Renew You, Love Your Life. You don't have to figure this out on your own. You don't have to walk around wondering, which way should I go? What is my direction? You can get the clarity you need so that you can move forward and step into your next season. So until tomorrow, be blessed, be encouraged, and make sure that you are ready to ask those questions. Don't be afraid. Ask God the questions you need to get the clarity that you want. I'll see you tomorrow. Be blessed.